Right. So I'm excited about this one because I love the head and neck stuff. It's always so relaxing and and it just feels really therapeutic to kind of put our hands on our skin here. And so we're going to be using type a couple of different types of approaches to work on our tissue today. And what I want to focus on is our glymphatic system. So if you've ever kind of dealt with some brain foggy, maybe fatigue stuff going on, we do have a lymphatic system in our brain. So that's what we're going to be kind of focusing on today. We're going to be doing some superficial drainage as well, but we're going to be targeting the deeper lymphatics that are flowing more in like the deeper parts of our skull and brain and head and neck and all of those things. So the glymphatic system is kind of this, brain washing system that's clearing the plaque accumulation from the surface of the brain. And the way that it's going to drain out of the brain, this is usually happening when we're in deep non-REM sleep, but it does happen a little bit during the day too. So where it usually will drain out, there's a little plate just at the forebrain, like behind your eyes, and it's almost like a little sieve. There's like little holes in there, and your smelling nerves actually pass up there, and that's how your brain can kind of tell, like, oh, what something smells like. And so that lymphatic fluid actually comes down the back of the nasal lymphatics. And we've got a lot of lymph nodes underneath our tongue and stuff like that. So we're going to be kind of focusing on lifting the fog, if you will. It's really rainy here in Austin, and all of our windows are fogged up. So we're going to be targeting some brain fog today. So find a comfortable position wherever you're at, whether you're seated in a chair or you're tuning in from your bed. And just take a couple breaths as you tap into your body, and feel free to close your eyes and to relax into this time together. Taking a nice breath in through your nose, out through your mouth or nose, whatever feels comfortable and safe. Bring whatever intention that you have for today's session into your foremind, or into your mind's eye. I guess it could be your foremind. Now, to kind of open up this area where this lymphatic fluid goes back in, I want you to bring your arms out to either side. Your palms can be facing up, and I want you to try to sort of rotate your arm bone, the entire arm bone, have it rotate from your shoulder as well. And as you're ready, slowly bring your right ear towards your right shoulder to create a little bit of long elongation and a nice gentle stretch through the side of your neck. You might even feel it down into your shoulder, down into your bicep. We're just gently tugging on the nerve roots here. We have two major chains of lymph nodes that run down the sides of the neck. And we just want to create a little bit of a pull to create some gliding here. So you can bring your nose down towards your armpit, like you're going to smell your armpit, and try to get a stretch on the back of the neck. And then rotating back, trying to bring your nose up towards the sky. Feel that stretch on the front of the neck. Slowly bringing your nose across your chest. Let's come to the left side. Palms are still up. You're kind of reaching through your fingertips. And just bringing that ear towards the left shoulder to open up the right. And bringing that nose down towards your armpit. Trying to get a stretch on the back of the shoulder. Maybe you feel it pulling down into the back of your neck. And as you gently roll your head back, bringing your nose up towards the ceiling, feeling that stretch on the front of the neck, maybe even the front of the shoulder. You might feel some almost like nerve activation kind of flossing the nerves and the lymph here. Now, just to see what it feels like, I want you to rotate your arms forward. So now our palms are kind of facing back behind us. So we went from here to here. So we're rotating everything backwards, stretching through the fingers, and just do one more pass where you bring your right ear towards the right shoulder, nose down towards the armpit, up towards the ceiling, just kind of crossing over and seeing if there's a different sensation. I feel I feel it in different areas of my body as I'm kind of rotating up in the other direction. And bringing your nose across, a sweep towards the other side. And just flossing through that forward and backward. And you can come out of that, wiggle your fingers. If you want to bring your shoulders up into like some little circles just to create some pumping here. Whenever we move our shoulders, we're moving our collarbones, and that's changing the pressure here behind to help bring that fluid back into circulation. Placing your hands over your collarbones, over that triangular space. You can press into this little triangle. I like to do almost like a circular pumping towards the base of the neck. But if you feel like you want to just use one hand and do one side at a time, you can. If it feels better for you to kind of rub back and forth, almost like you're playing a violin, you can try it that way. Or you can just stick with those shoulder shrugs and circles. All of these ways are going to help kind of create some sort of opening and flow. Now take two fingers and just come about an inch below the ear. This is about where the largest lymph node in the neck sits, and it's right next to our vagus nerve. We're just using the weight of our fingertips to press to create some little circular pumping just along the surface of the skin. So I want you to kind of imagine that there's like a leaf floating on top of water, and you want to move that leaf along the surface, but you don't want to dive and push it under the water. So we're just using very superficial pressure here as we're pumping in a circular motion just to stimulate our vagus nerve. This is more about nervous system than lymph, even though they're both BFFs. Just to help dilate these lymphatic vessels. So we're creating flow, even indirectly, before we're even doing lymphatic drainage, which is pretty cool. Now let's take that circular pumping down to the base of the neck, right above the collarbones. If you need to switch hands, you can. I just kind of felt that like a little weird on my wrist. So if something feels awkward, just try to change your position. So now we're going to use that same very superficial pumping just right above the collarbone. So that vagus nerve is kind of coming down the neck and then it goes underneath the collarbone. So we're just stimulating where it started and then the last place where we can touch it in the head and neck here. And the vagus nerve doesn't need a whole lot of pressure to be happy. So just imagine that leaf kind of floating along the surface of the water. Nice deep breath in through your nose, out through your nose or parted lips. Try to soften the muscles in your face and see if you're carrying any tension that you can soften. You might even notice like an increase in saliva production here. That's good. So there's a particular muscle that I love to work to make sure that we're optimizing flow in the head and neck. So the SEM here that attaches behind the ear kind of comes down the side of the neck. It's got two heads to it. So you can see the most prominent head here, and then there's a little one like right underneath it. So we're gonna start at the very top. I want you to see if you can find that muscle. You can rotate, you can sort of drop your ear down a little bit to soften it, to make it a little bit easier to grab hold of. I like to use the flat of my finger and then my thumb, almost like you're clicking a remote control. Put that little muscle right in between your finger and your thumb and see if you can just gently pick it up and press it. Squeeze it together. Just a little bit of compression. It doesn't have to be anything tense. Just something to create a little blood flow in there. These muscles tend to get really tight. And because those lymphatic chains are right in front of it and behind it, we just want to give it a little hello. Again, if it feels a little bit difficult to grab, shorten the distance between your ear and your shoulder. You can even bring your nose down to your chest a little bit. Get in there. And I will do a little bit of massaging, or sometimes I'll just hold it. Try both, see which feels better for you. And tapping in with your breath. Now let's come down just a little bit closer, more towards the end of that muscle. So now we're more towards the collarbone, getting a nice little pinch there. Another good breath in and out. And switching sides, you can use the same hand on the same side, or you can try the opposite side, whichever feels more comfortable for you. And see if you can tell a difference between the left and right side. Does one side feel a little bit tighter, a little bit more tender? My left side feels a little different. So I'm kind of using a little bit different technique. I'm like, maybe instead of holding it, I want to massage it a little bit. Yeah, a little tighter for me on this side. Therapeutic pain is okay, but we're not trying to pull this muscle off of our neck. All right. Keep it therapeutic. And then coming down into that lower portion of it, if you want to stick with that remote control pinch, or if you just want to do a little claw. The muscle definitely gets smaller towards the bottom, so it might be a little easier to grab it with just two fingers. Cool. So bringing your wrists together, make a little seat and just hug your neck here. So this way we're covering all of the lymphatic, like all of the superficial lymph just on the front and sides of the neck. And we're just going to start with that downwards pumping motion. So still kind of keeping with that gentle drainage, that gentle pressure, really thinking about those superficial lymph nodes closer to the surface of the skin. Not superficial as in shallow personality, superficial as in just really close. We're just pumping that lymphatic fluid down towards the collarbones. You may notice an increase in saliva production. You also may notice that you're feeling really relaxed or dropping into a more relaxed state. So kind of tune in with the body and just see if you notice anything, if there's any sensations. whether it's in your head and neck or anywhere else in your body. And let's flip the script a little bit. So we've got our seat. Now let's bring our hands behind the head, touch the fingers to where we're kind of creating like a little hammock for the base of the skull. Fingers are in the hair, not all of them, but maybe about half of them. And now I just want you to start pulling forward. I'm using a little bit more pressure here. So we're just pulling, pulling, pulling to get a little bit of gentle traction. You should feel just a pull at the base of the skull. And if your fingers are moving a little bit like mine are, like my seat is starting to get a little closer together towards my chin. So now I want you to start pulling down. So we've just got a little superficial stretch on the base of the base of the neck here. And just let that tissue guide you as we kind of pull down. If anything gets awkward or uncomfortable, again, you can just try to switch your hands and try something else. See if it feels better for you a different way. No wrong way to do it. We're just trying to create that intention of pulling downward. So come back to those fingers in the middle base of the skull hammock. Now I want you to start making some circular pumping forwards and down. So we're getting the suboccipital lymph nodes at the base of the skull. We can get like a fullness here sometimes. So it really helps to target the drainage back here. And if you want to change your hand position and get one below it, so now we're kind of off of the base of the skull and more at the base of the neck. Just doing some little forward pumping. Forward pump and pump down towards the collarbones. Now let's come into the jaw. Lots of lymph underneath the jaw. Our tongue has like the floor of our mouth is so muscular, and it's attached to a little bone there called the hyoid. The hyoid bone, from like an evolutionary standpoint, there's like two fangs on that bone. We're not going to be working the bone, but we are going to be working the hammock muscles that attach to it. So I want you to take your thumbs and just find the tip of your chin. Now, bring maybe like 2 fingers widths back. We're going to just come into the soft palate of the floor of the mouth. So just kind of gently kind of press up in there. You'll feel like a little line of pull. And let's see if we can see it here. So like here's the bone and here's the little muscles that attach. And if we're looking at the base of the floor of the mouth, you can see it's all muscular there. So that's kind of what we're going for, is this little hammock in between the bone and the jaw. I think there's 14 bones in the head and neck. Only one of them moves, and that's the jaw. So these muscles are definitely a little bit jammed up sometimes. If you have a surface in front of you, you can rest your elbows on that surface so you can use the weight of your head to kind of press into it. But I want you to just gently melt your thumbs into that soft space. Nothing should feel choky. We're just aiming for that line of pull that we feel right in the middle of the jaw. And you can feel it pressing up into your tongue to kind of create a gentle release. Makes it a little tricky to talk as I'm doing this. We're just trying to release this guy. Couple nice breaths in as you melt into this space. Almost like you're melting a pat of butter. If you feel like you want to tuck your fingers in to sort of melt into this tissue, you can. If you don't have a space underneath you, I'll like lock my fingers in and then almost use my body as a tripod to make it a little easier to melt into this space. We have three main salivary ducts underneath the tongue. So if you've got some saliva production right now, that's awesome. And just know that we're kind of releasing this area to create more mobility for our tongue because it's such a robust muscle that helps with lymphatic drainage in the deeper portions of the head and neck. Now, just taking the tips of the thumbs, let's go ahead and drain that lymphatic fluid, starting at the middle of the jaw. We're going to trace the jawbone up and around. So starting from the middle, gently pushing backwards towards the ears, and even coming up and a little bit around the edges. You can move as slowly or as quickly as you'd like. Not like we want to do like turbo drainage, but I mean, you could just stay here and slowly release it, moving at the tempo of your body. Or you can try to create just some more passes of drainage here. I like the low and slow because then we're also kind of working with our connective tissue. Lymph is along for the ride here, as that connective tissue is kind of giving our body its that structure, that support for all the lymphatic vessels and nodes underneath here. Now we have this muscle that connects our jaw to our collarbones, this SCM, or the platysma is a big old sheet muscle here. And I love to release it. So using your knuckles, you can make like little cat paws and just come into the tips of the chin, the tips of the knuckles onto the tip of the chin. And we're just gently working with more pressure because now we're kind of working with muscles here. And we're just separating and creating a nice pull. And you can kind of get those knuckles to sink down into that muscular, bony structure. It's going to pull your lips apart. You'll feel a little bit of pulling in the middle of your face. And that's all right. And if you feel anything that feels a little bit bumpy, tender, like you can feel some little adhesions, you can feel free to make another extra pass over those or kind of slow down and ease into them. Just working with intention, trying to tap into your intuition. What is my tissue telling me it needs? And then experimenting with different things to see what happens. Coming into the ears, just grabbing your pointer and your thumb here. Bring your earlobes into your fingers. And I want you to gently pull down towards the collarbones and then pull up and out. Just switching between those two. Pulling straight down, pulling out. If you feel like you need like a better grip, so I was doing pointer and thumb, but if you want to go back to that remote control clicker, it's a good hold. Whatever feels secure so that you can grab hold of it and create a little bit more lengthening and opening. Pulling out, pulling those earlobes out. Maybe you want to hook into the meat of your ear, into that little space where you can test the mobility of your ears. How freely do they want to move? Pull up and out, away from the skull. We've got lymph nodes in front of and behind the ears. So just mobilizing the ears, trying to mobilize that lymphatic flow through here, because they can be a little bit of a bottleneck. So taking the fingertips, let's just make like a little C on the insides of the ears. Mobilizing those ear channels, the inner ear. Got eustachian tubes that actually go down and drain down into the back of the throat. Lots of lymph play in the ears. Now take your fingers and make a peace sign, or you can do your Spock hands where there's two fingers in front of and behind the ears. But give your ears a hug. And let's do that same backwards and pumping down that we did on the neck. Or if it just feels a little bit too confusing because it's like, wait, two directional, what? You can just do a circular motion, moving upwards and down. Let's come into the back of like behind the ear at the base of the skull. You can use your knuckles. You can go back to those cat paws, or you can use the tips of your fingers. But we're gonna try to find that bony protrusion right behind the ear. You'll feel a little bony ridge sticking out. So we're gonna take the knuckles and find that spot. And you can do some nice circular massage here. It doesn't have to be circular if you want to try to pinch your knuckles together, like kind of gather at the base of the neck. You can try that. Just try a few different ways of working this area, but you'll find some areas of tension, I guarantee it. But whatever feels easiest for you to do. If you want to try doing one side, leaning your head in and just using the weight of your head, you can do that if that feels easier for you. And then moving towards the other side or both sides, whatever feels best for you. Let's come up into the sinuses here. Everything around the eye and the eye itself is all kind of draining down into the lymph nodes here in front of the sinus cavities. So making that cat paw knuckles again, we're going to let's bring our pointer finger right into that soft, squishy space. And then we're going to slide our knuckles in and try to get all your knuckles under your jaw bones here. So we kind of started at the center, tracing that bone until we land here, looking real cute. And we're just kind of leaning into this, pressing into this, and trying to get some nice opening in these cheek muscles. Taking a nice breath in through your nose, out through your mouth. Just letting this tissue soften like butter. Not really doing anything, just inviting change, trying to be in the right place at the right time with the right intention. And now we can come in and do some drainage on the cheeks. We've got a nice flow going in here now. So just placing your fingers along either sides of the nose. We can start making a circular pumping motion from the midline of the face and just pumping towards the ears using your whole hand as we repeat this process. Might take you 2 passes, might take you 3. Or maybe it's just one. Maybe you just want to leave your hands right where they're at and just make a nice circular pumping motion. Now let's change directions a little bit. We were kind of going straight across. Let's go down. Now we're going to just take just the tips of like 3 fingers. Now we're going to come down the sides of the mouth, down to the jaw. So the lymph in the eyes, underneath the eyes, it's usually draining down to the lymph nodes underneath the jaw. So it's like we've laid a path, and now we're inviting fluid down into this space. And the teeth and tongue, they're starting to drain into these lymph nodes as well. So we're just kind of pushing that fluid along back towards the heart. Taking a nice deep belly breath, kind of using your diaphragm as a pump to draw that fluid back into circulation. Now let's come down the jaw. Come down the jaw and let's guide that fluid all the way down. So we're just going circle by circle, starting at the face, going down the sides of the neck, down the jaw, down the sides of the neck. We'll just make a few of these passes, kind of guiding and gliding that fluid. And the last one here. Now let's come up to the sinuses above the eyes. We can use the tips of our fingers or a knuckle if that feels a little bit easier or better for your hands. And let's start on the right side. So we're going to direct our pressure up and in just in this bony area in the eye. Gently, of course. We're not trying to stab ourselves here. I want you to direct that pressure up and in. With the other hand, now we're going to come to the other side of the bridge of our nose, and we're just going to go straight across. So one's going up and in, one's going straight across. And I want you to try to bring those fingers together to create that variation in pressure with that 2-directional push. Now we're using a little bit more pressure here because we're working the sinuses, not necessarily the lymphatics. If you want to do a little wiggle, you can. That feels good. And now let's switch. So the finger that was pointing upwards and inwards is now going to go straight across. And the one that's going straight across is now going to go upward and inward. Woo! It's like a little instant pressure release. Just using the amount of pressure that feels comfortable and safe for you. Just opening up these sinuses to optimize drainage for the brain. Nice breath in through your nose, out through your mouth, or parted lips. And now let's train the eyes themselves. So taking just the tips of your fingers, we're going to use very gentle and light pressure. And I just want you to place your fingers over your eyes. Make it dark, make it warm, make it safe. So we're just going to press over the tops of our eyelids. And we're walking our fingers down towards the ears. So those lymph nodes in front of the ears. You need to open just to see how I'm doing it. We're just doing a little gentle pumping over the eyelid, down the sides of the cheeks, and into the ears. And then just repeating that as we move, just pass by pass, guiding that fluid little by little. Coming back into the ears, we want to hit those lymph nodes one more time. So let's press that little circular rotation in front of and behind the ears. Just to clear the lymph out of there. Let's hit underneath the jaw just a couple more times. All that lymph that started to drain. and guiding it along those channels. Wrists together just to get the front and sides of the neck all at once. Just pressing backwards and down, working that skin to kind of stretch it and pump it down towards the collarbones. And then pressing into those collarbones one more time. Just as like a final sign off, get that lymph back into circulation. Maybe doing one side and then the other. Or doing your shoulder circles if that feels better for you. You don't have to press behind the collarbones. But it does feel nice. It feels nice to do it a few different ways.